The episode was supposed to be one of the highlights of the season, a heartfelt reunion between Kelly Clarkson and her longtime friend and mentor Reba McEntire. Yet what began as light-hearted laughter quickly spiraled into something no one in the studio could have predicted. The tension was subtle at first, hidden beneath polite smiles and careful words, but the undertones of disagreement soon broke through as Kelly steered the conversation into territory Reba had not expected. Kelly asked a pointed question about Reba's past decisions in her personal and professional life, and though her tone was curious, the words struck a nerve. Reba shifted in her chair, her eyes narrowing just slightly as she replied with a firmness that caught both the audience and Kelly off guard. She said some things were not meant to be unpacked on daytime television. Her voice carried an edge and the audience gasped at the sudden shift in energy. Kelly pressed on, trying to lighten the mood, but Reba's patience began to thin. The two country icons who had once shared stages and countless fond memories now sat opposite one another, locked in a silent battle of wills. Kelly's smile faltered as Reba's answers grew shorter, sharper, and laced with irritation. The tension was no longer beneath the surface. It filled the air so heavily that even the cameras seemed to hesitate before cutting between them. The breaking point came when Kelly challenged Reba on her outspoken views about the industry, suggesting that some of her comments in past interviews may have hurt younger artists. Reba's face hardened as the audience held its breath. She leaned forward, her voice low but fiery, telling Kelly that she had no right to question her legacy or to lecture her about the next generation. The words echoed through the studio like a slap. Kelly tried to defend herself, insisting she was simply asking questions that viewers wanted answers to, but Reba cut her off, saying she was tired of being treated like a spectacle. She accused Kelly of disrespect and of crossing a line that should never have been crossed. The stunned audience watched in silence as the warmth that usually defined their relationship dissolved right before their eyes, replaced by raw, unfiltered emotion. The silence that followed was deafening. Kelly's eyes widened and she tried to apologize, backtracking quickly, but the damage was already done. Reba shook her head, stood up from her chair, and with a wave of her hand signaled that she was finished. The crowd gasped again as the country legend walked off the stage, leaving Kelly frozen in her seat, unsure whether to chase after her or let her go. The cameras stayed trained on Kelly, capturing every ounce of her shock. As Reba disappeared backstage, the crew scrambled frantically, cutting to a commercial break while Kelly tried to regain her composure. She leaned forward, clasped her hands, and whispered an apology to the audience before the lights dimmed, her voice quivering with regret. She had not expected the conversation to spiral out of control, and the realization that she might have fractured a decades-long friendship weighed visibly on her. When the show returned, Kelly attempted to continue, but her usual charm seemed muted. Her words faltered and her eyes darted often to the empty chair where Reba had once sat. The audience clapped politely, but the energy in the room was gone. The departure hung over every word like a dark cloud. The producers whispered frantically in her ear, urging her to move on, but Kelly's heart was clearly not in it. Backstage, Reba was surrounded by staff who tried to coax her into returning, but she remained firm, shaking her head and declaring she would not be made a fool of. She had always prided herself on grace, but today she felt cornered, ambushed, and disrespected in front of millions. Walking away was the only choice. She felt she had left. The decision weighed heavily on her too, but she could not bring herself to swallow her pride and return. The fallout was immediate. Social media exploded with clips of the heated exchange. Fans debated fiercely, some defending Kelly's probing as part of her role as a host, while others accused her of betraying someone who had once been her mentor. The headlines blared across entertainment outlets. Reba McEntire walks off Kelly Clarkson's show after heated clash, leaving the future of their relationship in question, and the audience stunned at a friendship that might never fully recover. The morning after the explosive episode, the entertainment world was buzzing with speculation. Fans rewatched the tense exchange, dissecting every word, every look, and every moment of silence while news outlets played the clip on repeat. Kelly awoke to find her phone overflowing with messages, some from friends offering comfort, others from critics accusing her of pushing too far. The weight of it all pressed heavily on her as she sat alone, sipping her coffee, replaying the scene in her mind and wondering if she had just ruined something irreplaceable. Reba, on the other hand, retreated into silence. Her team issued no statement and she herself avoided interviews, but the absence of words spoke volumes. Reporters camped outside her Nashville estate hoping to catch even a glimpse of the country legend, but she refused to be seen. The only message that leaked from her circle was that she felt hurt, blindsided and unwilling to patch things up anytime soon. The silence only fueled speculation about whether the rift was permanent. Inside NBC executives scrambled. They had banked on this episode being a ratings juggernaut, and while it had certainly drawn attention, it had also created chaos. Calls poured in from sponsors, some thrilled with the publicity, others deeply concerned about the show's image. Kelly's producers convened an emergency meeting debating whether to issue an official apology or frame the moment as part of the unpredictability of live television. The room was divided and no clear path forward emerged. Meanwhile, fans split sharply down the middle. Half rushed to Reba's defense, insisting that Kelly's line of questioning was too invasive and disrespectful. They argued that a mentor should never be humiliated on national television. The other half stood firmly behind Kelly, praising her for her authenticity and boldness. They said she had done her job as a host by asking the hard questions. The debate raged across social media and even bled into country music forums, where longtime fans of both artists clashed fiercely. Kelly eventually broke her silence in an emotional Instagram video, her eyes red and her voice soft. She told her followers she never intended to hurt Reba and that she regretted how the conversation had escalated. She admitted that her words had come out harsher than she meant and that she hoped Reba would forgive her. It was a vulnerable, raw moment, but it was also met with mixed reactions. Some saw sincerity while others dismissed it as damage control. Reba's response came days later during a surprise appearance at a Nashville charity gala. Dressed in a glittering gown, she took the stage and addressed the elephant in the room without naming Kelly directly. She spoke about respect, dignity, and knowing when to walk away from situations that no longer felt safe. Her words drew thunderous applause, and although she never confirmed or denied reconciliation, the implication was clear: she still felt deeply wounded. The entertainment press seized on Reba's comments, spinning headlines that suggested a permanent fracture had formed between her and Kelly. Outlets published long histories of their friendship, contrasting moments of warmth with the icy tension of the recent episode. Analysts called it one of the most shocking daytime TV clashes of the decade, arguing that it would change the way celebrity guests approached Kelly's show moving forward. Some even speculated it could mark a turning point in Kelly's career. Kelly tried to move forward on her show with new guests and lighter topics, but the shadow of the confrontation lingered. Audiences couldn't help but compare every interaction to the one with Reba. Even small disagreements were blown up online into potential feuds. Kelly smiled through it all, but behind the scenes she confided in close friends that she felt haunted by the fallout. The show was supposed to be a celebration of music and camaraderie, yet it now carried a reputation for conflict. In the weeks that followed, a surprising development emerged: whispers that mutual friends in the country music industry were working behind the scenes to bring Kelly and Reba together. Organizers of major award shows hoped to reunite them on stage as a symbolic gesture of reconciliation. The industry understood that their feud was not just personal but cultural, a crack in the foundation of country music's storytelling tradition. Fans desperately wanted resolution, but neither woman was ready to make the first move. The world waited anxiously, wondering if Kelly Clarkson and Reba McEntire could ever rebuild the bridge that had so dramatically collapsed on live television. Their relationship, once defined by mentorship and music, now stood as a reminder of how fragile even the strongest bonds can be. The unanswered question lingered in every headline: would forgiveness come in time, or would the walk-off remain an unhealed scar etched forever into the history of daytime television? The producers of a major country music award show sensed an opportunity. They knew the Kelly and Reba feud had captured the world's attention, and they plotted carefully behind the scenes. The idea was simple but risky: reunite the two women on stage for a tribute performance that would symbolize unity, yet convincing them proved nearly impossible. Reba hesitated, fearing her dignity would be undermined. Kelly worried about being rejected in front of millions. Still, the organizers pressed forward, dangling the possibility of a moment that could heal or explode once again. When the night of the awards arrived, terrified whispers swept through the audience as rumors spread that Kelly and Reba would share the stage. Cameras banned the crowd, showing artists and fans alike buzzing with anticipation. Backstage, Kelly paced nervously, rehearsing her lines and fighting back waves of doubt. Reba meanwhile stayed in her dressing room, silent and calm on the surface, but her team noticed the tension in her clenched jaw and the way her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her gown. Both women knew this moment could define their legacy. The announcement came midway through the show. The host's voice boomed, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kelly Clarkson and Reba McEntire for a very special performance." The crowd erupted into gasps and applause as the lights dimmed and the stage glowed. Kelly stepped out first, her face a mixture of determination and vulnerability. Seconds later, Reba emerged. The sight of the two women standing side by side after weeks of silence sent shockwaves through the audience. Some fans rose to their feet, others held their breath waiting for the first note.